Hey everyone, welcome back to the Weekly Awakening Podcast. This is your host, Cosmic Colleen, back with another weekly astrology update. I hope you guys didn't miss me too much. This is episode 289. Deep breaths, everybody. Mercury retrograde. We know we are out of Mercury retrograde, but Mercury has officially left its post-shadow period. So everything is direct in regards to Mercury. However, Mercury is getting ready next week to move into Aries. I know us Mercury placements, though, and mutable placements, we are ready for that. Deep breaths, everyone. I am not going to lie. This was one of the roughest Mercury retrogrades and Mercury in Pisces I have had in a long time. It was a closure of sacrifices and hardships that showed up in my 7th house of Pisces from Saturn exiting there, where I have a native Mars. It goes opposition to my moon. I have my I just left a nodal return. I have a north node. Can I talk? Hello, Mercury is direct and out of its post. I should be able to talk right now. But I have a natal north node, a south node with my moon. So there's a lot happening when those two houses get activated. And when Saturn exits a sign, what's left over, there's like a closing of the karmic loop and the energy. And now it is in my 9th house where all this new energy is being activated. So people, wherever Aries is in your birth chart, if you have any planets there, it is getting activated and it is going to be very, very active for the next 3 years. Where us mutable placements, we finally are getting a little bit of a break. But I'm going to talk a tiny bit more about myself for a second. I know I am a Gemini and we love to talk about ourselves, but I will get you all of your astrology programming after I say these few things. I've shared this on my podcast over the years about taking care of my mother, especially for the last 3 years while Saturn ingressed into my 7th house, even before when it was in my 6th house. And I have to share that this chapter is and all the confusion and all of the health issues is changing, and we now sort of have some answers that way. And I had to unfortunately go down and take care of her because she got diagnosed with advanced staged vascular dementia. And at first it was hydrocephalus. It was all these other things. We had not the best neurologist, plus she was fighting it. And in the end, when they removed the pressure, it's like, okay, her brain is filled with that. And this last week, I went down to take care of her. She was at my sister's. It was there to give me a little bit of a break. And then her health just really took a dive for the worse, so she could not come back. But now I'm untangling this relationship her and I have had, which was a very, very complicated relationship. She had me in her 40s and we were very much stuck together, and there was a lot of me taking care of her a lot throughout her life. So nevertheless, that is why I disappeared. All of it kind of came on suddenly. I'm taking care of all of her affairs here. I will try. I'm not going away. Plus, I know I did go to the Bahamas, but nevertheless, I am not going away anytime soon. Just, you guys have always had grace with me when I don't give you guys an episode for a couple weeks. You never know which way life is going to turn. But again, thank you guys for sharing space, because again, I don't like to always talk about my personal stuff, but my mother was a huge chapter and a huge sacrifice and responsibility that came in when Saturn was in Pisces for me. So I kind of wanted to share that ending with you guys. I'm not sure how long she has. It's still there, a lot of responsibility, but we are moving forward in ways and just hoping that in the end it's the most peaceful it can be. So if you guys are praying, people, maybe, pray for that peace for her in the end, or anything along those lines. Prayers, good intentions, I would greatly appreciate that. But when I was down there visiting her, my Mars was actually trine Jupiter in Cancer, where I have a Venus. And it was a really healing week. Her and I had some really, really tender moments that we have not had in years that will stick with me. The way this dementia, she knows who we are. It's affected her cognitive abilities first, walking, eating, those type of things, but she still is a little bit of a whippersnapper, has her little mouth on her, which is good to see, and she knows who we are, so that was a blessing. Now, I'm moving on. Thank you guys for sharing. Again, thank you for always sharing space over the years and allowing me to share that. And so with that, that is what happens. Saturn brings us, not depending on what house it's in, what sign it's in. If you have planets there, it's going to be how strong it is for you. But there's a lot of family karma that you have to break through, sacrifices, because I have the moon there as an opposition. It was sacrifices I had to make for my family, sacrifices for my mother. That's how we get into the detail. But when it exits, there's still this leftover residual. So I finally want to say my mutable signs, you guys are free. I feel like I've been saying that for months, but sometimes I always forget the residual stuff we have to work through. But after this, it's smooth sailing for us for a good while. We still have 2 more eclipses, but they're, like I said, kind of moving into the new chapter eclipses. So I am sorry I missed that full moon in Libra like I had last week. I actually had all my notes. I sat with it, I meditated it, and then last week between work and my children or 2 weeks ago between work and my children and trying to pack for my mother and get her stuff, things like that, I just could not record this episode. So the beginning of this episode, I am going to talk about the horoscopes I wrote up for the cardinal placements from the full moon in Libra almost a week later. But you guys can look back and say, hey, this is accurate. And then I'll get into tying into all the Aries season stuff that is happening, because it's going to be a pretty big Aries season, a pretty big 2 weeks coming up for my cardinal placements. So on Wednesday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, as with my mother, we have the full moon in Libra, and this is the first full moon in Libra to go opposite Saturn, which will be happening the next 3 years, and Neptune, which will be happening for many, many years. So another 14 years. So full of new moons and full moons in Libra and Aries that will be opposite or conjunct Neptune and Saturn for the next 3 years with Saturn. So the full moon in Libra, the first thing that came to my mind is that Libras are going to have a breakthrough with not fearing speaking their mind or putting somewhere or something in their place. Libras are going to have a breakthrough with the power of their voice, their wants, their desires. Libra, you may even let someone have it and then not like try to retract backwards. Often Libras will have a little bit of confrontation. They'll speak their mind, they'll speak up, but then they instantly kind of want peace or feel bad, so they backtrack. They're like, okay, no, I'm sorry, or it's nothing, or they pretend like they didn't just say that. Now, Aries, normally y'all have your voice. You have your voice so much, and you want to be in power, and you will say anything, often without really thinking it first, because you really believe that that's your right or that power. So unless you have maybe a Mercury in Taurus, you are going to be pausing. You normally don't pause, and you are going to be pausing or finally learning the power of not reacting, or at least starting to take on that energy with this full moon and new moons, because we're just beginning a brand new cycle with these oppositions and conjunctions to Saturn and Neptune. So the power is within not feeling like you have to have the last word, or you got to say something crazy to get your point across, to gain power. Again, I'm sorry, we all have our stuff. Aries, I love you guys, but you're ruled by Mars, kind of that cocky, confident leader, and that's what makes you guys really great too. But with each sign, we have something to learn, and that's something that you guys have to, that's one of your lifelong lessons here. It depends on what the sign is. I feel like our sun signs present our lifelong lessons, that is in the general, and there is that like general for Aries, general for Gemini, those type of things. So Libras, restrictions. Here, this is your personal horoscope, and I have a few more. So Libras, restrictions, which cause you to take action, feeling like you're running out of steam, placing deep anger towards others, and this will bring awareness where your real anger lies, no longer hiding from the truth. You can't run from it anymore. Aries, you may be really struggling with the decision that you made. Normally, you make a decision and never look back, but right now you may be looking back and Saturn is really dampering your impulse party. You are definitely going to feel like you're running out of steam. Honestly, all the cardinal signs, one of the downers when Saturn first ingresses into a new sign is that sort of blah. And I've seen it with each sign as it's ingress into each sign. I've been studying this now pretty deeply for well over a decade, so I've been paying attention to that. And it's always a little bit of a dampering, sometimes bigger, sometimes not, but it won't last forever. If you remember when Saturn first entered Pisces and squared Gemini season, I got sick for like a week. I've never gotten sick for more than 24 hours. I know, I'm not even lying, 6 other Geminis who got sick. It was a hot mess. when that happens. So it just kind of puts a little damper on the party, you know? Like we're living life as life shows up, and Saturn sometimes brings not the easiest of things. There is a deep longing for something more peaceful or calming, but you may not be sure how to calm your role or even what that looks like. This will come as Saturn in Aries progresses. You'll really start to understand how you need to bring more calmness into your life. Learning who, how, when you need to conserve your energy, and it's not meant for everybody. That is important. Now, Cancer, y'all are getting a T-square to this full moon and the square to Saturn, Neptune. This is a run and hide energy. I love y'all, but run and hide when necessary. In this full moon, you're going to feel it, and I suggest that you do that. You are going to feel pulled in different directions, almost forced to pick a side or stand your ground with your opinion. You're going to be forced to talk or say what you mean. You don't always like to keep the peace, but now you have to stand your ground. Now, when I say these things, it doesn't always mean it's this like huge fight between your boss and a coworker. Sometimes it's something as simple as like, I don't know, fighting over an Uno game or an Uno spot. Like it's something that's a little bit, it can just show up in the moment. Sometimes it's grandiose, depending on your chart and that purpose in life. Sometimes it's a little bit smaller. So don't forget to look at the smaller ways that astrology shows up. Y'all like to, this is for Cancers, y'all like to rest, and that really depends on where your moon is, though. If you have a natal moon in Aries, I know a lot of Aries as Cancers, and you won't rest, but either way, this is a time to be forced rest. Some Aries, I will see they will burn out, but Aries moons have a lot of trouble with sleeping, or especially if they have a ton of fire, they can go all day. Even without little sleep, they have a ton of energy. Now, if they have something afflicting that Aries moon, they'll burn out quicker. Capricorn, you are really going to be forced out of your comfort zone. You might feel like you don't want to lead anymore, but you still have to lead. You are Capricorn. That's what you guys do. You guys make the best leaders. You guys make, you know how to fucking run shit and how to make you work hard and know how to transform a big business. So you feel a strong need to make a change in your home environment, though, and it may come on strong and suddenly. You may have, especially with the opposition to Jupiter and Cancer still, you may feel like you want to bring in religion again or spirituality, or you need to go out there and for your home dynamic, your family dynamic, you need to really go inward and find that spiritualness inside of yourself. My cardinal placements, let me know if that aligned. Text me, message me, whatever. I'm sorry it came out later. It was for 2 weeks ago, and my crazy life showed up. But now that we're moving out of all of this energy with the mutable, hopefully my life's a little more together. It might be wild. I don't know. Us mutable placements love to always have a little chaos, though. So let's talk about now this Aries pile up, and we'll end the episode with this, and I'll be back next week before we have this new moon Aries pile up. Right now, we have Saturn, Neptune, and the Sun in Aries. This weekend, April 9th, Mars will enter Aries. I'm a little happy it's moving out of Pisces. However, this is going to up that Mars energy, because right now this Mars energy has been cooled down, has been swimmingly kind of loose in Pisces, but now that Mars is joining the party in its home sign, its home fire sign, things are heating up, okay? Things are speeding up, and things are getting a little bit more chaotic. So on April 14th, then Mercury will enter Aries. I know my Mercury placements were ready for that. We should all be overjoyed. On the 17th, we will have a new moon in Aries, and at that point, we will have Neptune, Saturn, Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, all in Aries, and if you wake up in the morning of the 16th, 17th, 18th, you'll be able to see Mercury, Mars, and Saturn all together. So you have to wake up before the sun rises. I think that's kind of easy now that I guess it's 6 a.m. We can all do that, especially if you have kids in middle school. I will have another episode next week, and I want to continue to talk about this, especially with previous on this episode, I want to continue to talk about this, sort of tying into the previous horoscopes I just said for you guys. But next week, I will for sure be back to get more in detail about this very potent new moon. New beginning in so many different ways for cardinal placements. Not only is it a new beginning, but it's a new beginning without a roadmap. So get ready. It's a new beginning where you're just going to have to jump into it. But you got Saturn there helping you build along the way, even if there is some frustrations. And by the end of the Saturn transit, you'll be in a new level. So just know that it's a new beginning, but a new beginning without a roadmap. So I need to write that down so I can remember to do a video on that. Mars, now, like I had said, Aries season is normally fast and go, but with the ruling planet Mars in Pisces for this past season and Saturn there, it was a little more blocked than action. So the end of this Aries season is going to be the action. Mars is moving into its home fire sign and will conjunct Saturn, which is really hard, okay? You have two malefics, don't shoot the messenger, coming together, but let's discuss the positives about this first, or reframing the negatives, because I want some Aries to fill me in about this. I had a hard time coming up. This transit isn't always going to be bad, but I had a harder time finding some really strong positives for the next 3 weeks for my cardinal placements. I love you guys, not to scare, but so tell me where I'm wrong, because there is going to be positives, but instead I decided to reframe things that people most likely think are negative, which sometimes cardinal placements can do that. So it's not negative. We're spinning it into positives, but it's not going to be easy is all I'm saying. Don't shoot the messenger. You might hit a wall, but it's because you need to have a better strategy. You need to rethink the plan. It's not just your path. It may just not even be your path, even if you want it to be. Cardinal signs, you guys are leaders, like I said, and often you take off fast. You get that idea and you go fast with it, especially Aries. Sometimes, like I said, Capricorns will have a little bit more of that, thinking before acting, and now we have Saturn and Aries signs, so we're especially giving the Aries placements a little thinking before acting. But nevertheless, sometimes you might really strongly and be confident this is your plan. And that's the hardest, that sometimes it's really not our plan. And we can hit a wall once and then we can be like, okay, well, this definitely can't happen again. And then it can happen again. And there is something that maybe be blocking your path and you may just not be ready to see it, but you will see it as Saturn evolves, especially right now, Saturn and Neptune. Something feels like it's blocking your path, but you maybe just need to have a better strategy, rethink the plan, and again, maybe bring some acceptance that it is not your plan necessarily. So you're hitting that wall, but remember, it is to better strategy, rethink the plan, trust that it's not your path, if that is true. Hope is not going to be coming naturally at this time. I know I said positive, and that doesn't seem positive, but this is where our faith is put to test, and when our faith is put to test, that is where we grow it even more. When we feel hopeless, but then eventually we see the light. So if we aren't seeing the light yet, you need to practice your mind reframing, which doesn't always come easy. Again, to my cardinal placements, and understand that this is your time to bring in all you know when it comes to your mindset, to your meditation, to your mind, body, and soul practices. And the most thing I think is changing your mindset and your brain, and prayer, and bringing in your faith. So when your faith is tested, that is how it grows. Remember that. So when right now it doesn't feel natural to want to be hopeful, you have to push yourself and find that hope, find the light inside of you. And I promise you, it won't take you that long. It will grow quickly. But going down that dark rabbit hole takes you quicker, so you need to fight back. This can burst a fake bubble. You've been telling yourself, like, this is a very big, the bubble popping energy. Remember the relief, though, that comes from being popped, like your ears. Just being on an airplane the last couple months, 3 times. Oh, my God, it hurts. It doesn't really hurt, but then all of a sudden you pop it, and it feels so good. Right? You're like, oh my God, all that pressure's building up. So right now, that pressure of something that feels inauthentic to you, inauthentic to your life, that bubble is being popped. The new moon pile up will make more sense with that pop up, but the lead up, like I said, is not going to be the easiest. But the new moon, you will feel better. So just ride the wave. If or when you are stopped in your tracks with something, it's important to remember that rejection is redirection, because it will stop you in your tracks. When Mars and Saturn come together, it is stopped in your tracks energy. So boom. This can bring a sudden and permanent feeling ending, though it may not be permanent because it's happening in a cardinal sign. That doesn't often mean permanent, but will take a while to work through if it isn't permanent. And I will say it again, this is stopped in your hard tracks energy. So it's not going to be something, the feeling of ending, that ending, even if it doesn't last, it's not going to come, back quickly like it does with mutable, when we're in mutable signs. A nice saving grace is that Venus is in Taurus right now. And so with this Aries stellium, it should be a little bit like, fuck it. everything might be burning around me, but I'm going to have fun tonight no matter what. Our joys won't feel so fucked unless it's around exercise, but keep moving. Keep moving. This would be a good time to like really push through some endurance that you didn't think you have or you really don't feel right now, because you will feel better afterwards, but that's hard to get to. But again, this will be time to have some fun, pate a little bit. So the energy is sudden and slowed, quitting, blocking, stopping, rejection, redefining what your life path looks like. But again, you don't know the roadmap. Lost with no way to find direction. But remember these things. Rejection is redirection. Things feel sweeter after the sacrifice. I actually wrote sweatier after the sacrifice, but sweatier works too. Not everything needs to go your way or the way you think it needs to be. So cardinal placements, you guys, this will be a lesson in being more flexible and that you don't need to control everything. I'm looking at y'all my way or the highway peeps, okay? You cardinal signs know you guys are my way or the highway. And this, one of your sign lessons here is to be a little more flexible and not always feel the need to have a sudden control of something. Because sometimes your sudden control gets out of control quicker than you think. But I feel like fixed signs have the true control, where cardinal signs sometimes have the perceived control, and mutable signs have no control. That was good too. I should write that down. This is your karmic lessons to transform. So again, the two malefics meet up. It's going to be hard. Saturn is not working at its best in Aries, but Mars is working at its strongest. So there is a little bit of combust. Kind of, you all will make it through this energy, and the teacher here is slow and steady, wins the race. I love y'all. Also, not to like throw it in you guys' faces, but Mercury peeps, this is, like I said, one of the hardest retrogrades, and on top of all the energy, what you guys are entering, we mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, are exiting from the last 3 years. And woo, it has been intense, to say the least. It has definitely been intense. So we are ready to be freed of that. I'm saying it's on the up and up, but we're going to be here for you guys and teach you my cardinal signs. We'll be there to help calm you down and say, hey, it's not always your way. All right. I love you all, and I will be back next week.